Welcome Trinidad and Tobago to our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barito. Let's take a look at the headlines. Siparia residents receive their certificates of comfort from the Prime Minister. Government approves the procurement of an additional 100 new buses to add to the PTSC fleet. And we take a look at the 13th annual Amerindian Heritage Week. Thank you for joining us. Muslims around the world are celebrating the festival of Eid ul-Adha. The first is the first great festival, Eid ul-Fitr, that follows the month of Ramadan when the fast is broken. The second Eid ul-Adha occurs about 2 months later during the month of Zil-Hajj, when an animal is sacrificed in commemoration of Abraham's sacrifice of his son. This festival is incorporated in the great pilgrimage to Mecca, which should properly be made during this month, but it is also observed all over the Muslim world at the same time. The underlying importance of this festival is the spirit of sacrifice in memory of Abraham's great act of faith many centuries ago. Eid ul-Adha is, according to Islamic teaching, a time for Muslims to learn the value of self-denial by making a sacrifice of something living to God. In other news, Siparia residents received their certificates of comfort from Prime Minister the Honourable Kamla Persad-Bissessar as part of the Land Settlement Agency's move to regularize squatters. The deeds distributed goes towards residents who applied over 13 years ago in an attempt to gain titles to their homes they built decades ago. Prime Minister Persad-Bissessar vowed that her administration is working to speed up the process.
It's been a long wait for many citizens in the Siparia district trying to get the rights to the lands they have occupied for decades. However, under the Land Settlement Agency, they now have the opportunity to have the land titles under their name through the agency's move to regulate squatters. In presenting the deeds to the residents, Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar and MP for the area remembered when the process had started back in 1998 to ensure a more humane approach was taken towards squatters. She recalled a team back then comprising of former Minister John Humphrey and Attorney-at-Law Carol Coffey Dowlat working tirelessly to get the necessary legislation laid in the lower house.
You had 1 year within which to make your application. Some people did not meet that deadline, and we amended the law to allow for you to apply up to 2,000. So most applications would have been placed by you and others in the country between the period of 1999 and 2000. Having applied then in 2000 and knowing this area, my office staff and other activists, we formed a team of persons. I think you all will remember. We went into your areas. We actually helped you to fill up the forms, got the forms in, sent them into the LSA so that all of you were included as applicants. Having applied,
for many citizens, it is a comfort that they have acquired a peace of mind knowing they have a place to pass on to their children to call their own. During the ceremony, the Ram family's plight was highlighted. Mr. Ram had worked as a sugar worker from a tender age as a little boy and grew up to have a family of his own, but had nowhere to live. In 1962, he built a home for his 6 children and wife and had tried to obtain deeds for the property, but to no avail. However, because of the government's efforts to legalize long-time squatters, he now has the property to his name, as Prime Minister Persad-Bissessar presented a certificate to him.
15 years I waiting for this COCO it is.
I have rights now as a citizen thanks to the PP government.
Well, I'm feeling free. When I say free, I mean I'm feeling, well, now I will get it. I'm waiting so long, now I will get it.
I have comfort via the COC.
Well, it means plenty thing to me. It means that now I've settled down in the land or whatever. It means plenty thing to me.
These deeds presented allow citizens to have a comfortable piece of land that provides a secure home and the ability to enjoy decent living conditions.
The certificate of comfort allows you the right of regularization on 5,000 square feet or less. Those of us who look at other parts of the world, 5,000 square feet is actually a very generous parcel of land, a generous size. Please do not occupy or attempt to occupy more than this amount, or else you might endanger your chance of receiving your deed of lease. Do not be greedy. Let us not be greedy. Land is a precious, limited resource. Remember, we are not only focused on giving certificates of comfort, but also in improving your standard of living and your quality of life.
The deed presented came after 13 years and more since these citizens applied for their certificate of comfort. However, the process became dormant during this period. Prime Minister Pasal Bisesa says she aims to ensure the process is ramped up.
The land doesn't belong to me. It doesn't belong to the government. The land belongs to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Of course, you have to obey the law. We have to go through a process. It doesn't mean that you can land grab. It doesn't mean you can just go and sit down on any piece of land. We must obey the law and work within the law. And in that way, we can help you. We are looking at ways to amend the Act 25 of 1998, the Land Squatter Regularization Act, to see how we can free up the process to ensure that all those persons who applied, Minister said about 20,000 persons, that they are processed and fast-tracked.
The Land Settlement Agency, LSA, has been mandated to regularize and deliver security of tenure to families who were in unauthorized occupation of state land prior to January 1st, 1998, and to contain further squatting on state land in Trinidad and Tobago. Kimberly Calawan, News 4.
When we come back, PTSC launches another new bus service. Stay with us. This country has agreed to host an educational symposium being put on by the Organization of American States to discuss innovation, competitiveness, and development in education.
Minister of Education Dr. The Honorable Tim Gopi Singh has signed a memorandum of understanding that will see Trinidad and Tobago host the second Virtual Educa Symposium. Virtual Educa is a multilateral initiative by the Organization of American States, or OAS, which addresses innovation, competitiveness, and development in education to ensure educators, students, and the education system in the region is on par with the rest of the world. Speaking at the signing of the MOU, Ambassador Albert Ramdin, Assistant General Secretary of the OAS, believes the region will benefit greatly from the initiative.
All education stakeholders from the region will be able to access the latest technology, information and learning systems available in this hemisphere. Virtual Educa will showcase best practices in education technology and explore how it can be adapted to Caribbean systems and needs. In so doing, it will facilitate a new dimension in interaction among teachers, students, and learning systems. And when formally inaugurated next year here in Port of Spain, Virtual Educa will bring together thousands of students, educators, policymakers, and international experts to explore cutting-edge technological educational tools being used in other parts of the world.
This, he says, ensures all students in the region stand the same chance of success on a global stage. He adds the effect is more powerful than can be imagined.
This is a platform, ladies and gentlemen, that has the potential to change the way we look at education, the way we teach, and the way we learn, as well as our ability and our children's ability to absorb information. Ultimately, Virtual Educa is a platform that offers opportunity and empowerment.
Dr. Jose Maria Anton, the Secretary General for Virtual Educa at the OAS, says education in the region must evolve just as it has throughout the rest of the world.
The more important thing about what we do is to talk with the teachers all over the hemisphere about innovation and change. Education has solid ground, many thousands of years, but at this moment, at the beginning of the 21st century, where globalization and technology have substantially changed our societies, it's very important that in education we are part of the future, being also part and recognizing our past.
At the last Virtual Educa Symposium held in Suriname, hundreds of teachers were trained, government officials learned about regional and international educational initiatives, the general public met with experts for conferences, and Surinamese students were exposed to a virtual classroom for the first time. It is expected Trinidad and Tobago students, teachers, and education stakeholders will experience the same at the second virtual Educa Symposium, which will be held in Port of Spain in March 2015. Gregory McBurney, News 4.
Christmas has come early for the residents of Carlson Field, Cashew Gardens and Edinburgh 500. This comes as PTSC, in collaboration with the Ministry of Transport, launched its bus service in the community. Also, government has approved the procurement of an additional 100 new buses to add to the PTSC fleet.
Central Trinidad, one of the finest growing economic areas in the country. A brand new service will be provided for the residents of Carson Field, Cashew Gardens and Edinburgh 500 and surrounding areas by the Public Transport Service Corporation, PTSC. For years, residents of these communities have made several attempts to have the service in the Chaguanas area, and today it has finally come to a reality. PTSC answered their pleas for help.
This is Christmas to the people of Carson Field and environs, because they have waited long enough for a service such as this, and it will be really embraced by all. The service, in my view, is going to be efficient, and the children, of course, and the commuters, the traveling public, going to be very, 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 very accommodating to this service.
Rani Sharma is my name. I live at Carson Field, lot number 1.
Ms. Rani Sharma, tell us, how do you feel about this initiative?
Very, very, very effective. We long for that a long time, because the people from Carson Field, when they do go to Chaguanas and they have to come in, either they drop there and they walk in, or otherwise they pay $20 to come in inside here, and some of them had to pay $25 to come in inside here. So I applaud the service very much.
Like Ms. Rani Sharma, other residents echoed similar sentiments. A burden has been lifted.
I think it's a very, very good service, because in Carlson Field here, a lot of residents don't have transport. And in this way, it will be helping out a lot of kids, and it will be helping out a lot of residents.
It's a fulfilling accomplishment for the PTSC and a glimmer of hope for the residents. Now the expansion of the bus service will not only provide service for the paying commuters, but also for the senior citizens and school children in uniform, who access the service free of charge. Residents will no longer have to pay a costly price to get in and out of the community. With this new service, commuters will only pay $3, and they are hoping that the service is here to stay.
It's a very, very good thing. I only hope they keep it up, because something just gets started and it goes down, right? Let's hope this is one that goes up.
Addressing the residents, newly appointed Minister of Works and Transport Stephen Cady says the movement of commuters must be the primary objective of all transportation stakeholders. He adds that his ministry envisioned commuters accessing all the modes of public transportation.
Coming into office in 2010, I remember an employee at the Red House. She worked at the Parliament, and she came to me one day and she said, "Minister, see if you could do something for me now. I live in Edinburgh 500, and no, I live in Montrose, and it's very difficult for me. It costs me something like $30 or $40 a day to go from Montrose to the Parliament building, the Red House, and back home in the evening. See if you could get a bus service." That bus service right now, Mr. Ford, sorry, I didn't recognize Mr. Ford. Mr. Ford, you have a major problem on your hands, because that bus service, that particular service from Montrose to Port of Spain direct is such a popular service now that they tell me by the time it passes about 3 or 4 stops, the bus is filled, and therefore we need to extend that service.
The concept, he says, will reduce the administrative and bureaucratic bungling and time wasted associated with commuting. Also delivering remarks was MP for the area and Minister of the People and Social Development, Dr. Glenn Ramadasing, who urged residents to embrace the new bus service and maximize its use.
This will give so many people mobility, the ability to travel at an affordable rate. And I was trying to negotiate that $3, but he's a shrewd businessman, the Honorable Minister, and he would have none of it. So that it's very affordable traveling and mobility for these areas.
Ministers, ministry officials, as well as residents got a chance to tour the routes of which the bus services will be offered.
Mr. Ford?
Hey, where you going?
Coming on.
This PTSC bus driver, who will be transporting the residents in and around the community, praised the initiative. He says it's a good idea, one that will have a positive impact on the lives of the residents and the community by extension.
And where they could pay only $3 in the bus service, it's very nice to know that our corporation and this provide a service like that for $3. We're getting $3. That I couldn't believe $25 to come in here. That is very unfair to the people inside here.
The residents of these communities have been patient in awaiting the startup of these new services from the time the initial requests were made. The Ministry of Transport and the Government of Trinidad and Tobago will be unrelenting in their efforts to bring services to those communities and persons who need them most and at a cost they can afford. Joseph Lopez, News 4.
News 4 continues after the break. Stay with us. Top West Indies women's bowler Trinidadian Anissa Mohammed proved dangerous as she bowled an inspiring 5 for 12 to help the Windies women to a 23-run victory over New Zealand women. The Windies women are currently partaking in a T20 Tri-Nation series against the New Zealanders and England. In what was the opening game of the series, the Windies women managed 104 for 6 in their 20 overs, with Deandra Dotting hitting 52 off 51 balls. Mohammed's spin bowling tore through the New Zealand lineup to see her take only her second T20 career 5-wicket haul. Her meager economy rate left New Zealand at only 81 runs, all out with an over to spare. The Windies women face England on Friday. The First Peoples of Trinidad and Tobago gathered at the Lopino River to partake in the annual Indigenous water ritual as part of the 13th annual Amerindian Heritage Week. The celebration is as a result of the Santa Rosa First Peoples community of Arima, formerly known as the Carib Community, in conjunction with the University of Trinidad and Tobago, that's the UTT, and the Ministry of National Diversity and Social Integration.
Celebrating and preserving the presence of the Amerindians, Trinidad and Tobago's indigenous people, while educating citizens on their culture, beliefs and traditions is the focus of the First Peoples Heritage Week. The week of activities continues with many members of the group, including chiefs and indigenous representatives from neighboring Venezuela, Belize and Ghana, gathering to share in offerings and rituals. Drums could be heard from a distance, signaling the preparations of prayers and the summoning of ancestral spirits.
Healing for medicine, that you will continue to give us medicine as long as we shall dwell upon the land where you have placed us.
It is a known fact that these indigenous people traveled along the Orinoco River in Venezuela, crossing the sea to Trinidad and Tobago, coming inland via the streams and rivers to settle and make a new home. Along these Lopino foothills and streams, hundreds of years ago, the first people to call our twin island home still gather to give thanks to Mother Earth, water being symbolic of the 5 elements. Here they offer back in thanksgiving the blessings they believe they have received from Mother Earth. For Santa Rosa First People Community Carib Chief Ricardo Barros Hernandez, the ritual symbolizes giving thanks for the food they eat and drink, while the flowers represents a symbol of themselves as humans.
We believe that we are made up of 5 elements. two of which most important are fire and water. We have those elements within our bodies. We cannot live without them. If we do not have fire in us, we don't exist, we don't live, we die as humans. And if we don't have water in us, we will also die as humans. So these are two elements of nature that we see as God in the form of these things. He came to them through nature. He came to them through the forest, through the trees, through the water, through the animals, through the breeze, through the storms, through the rain, through the thunder. He reveals himself. That is how the first people communicated with him.
While the Heritage Festival is commemorated in October, Chief Hernandez says the rituals done intend to encourage those within the community to recognize and remember their ancestral roots.
What we do is because we have inherited from them. So we gather the watercourse because the river symbolizes life. It symbolizes the passing from one stage to another stage. It is also, life-giving to us. So we do the water ceremony, paying respects to the element of water because it is so important, and we also remember the ancestors through the medium of using the elements of nature and what the environment has provided. These are the things through which we remember and we pay homage.
Following the Thanksgiving and prayers, the community gathered in the village for a meal together at the neighborhood restaurant Cafe Mariposa, operated by Marcia Guerrero and her sisters, former parang singers themselves. The award-winning cafe in 2011 offers a wide variety of indigenous foods as well as exotic desserts made out of cocoa and local fruits.
It started out small and now it's growing and growing. We can have a small conference here. You can come for a retreat here. We have a nature trail. We have a tilapia pond with about 8,000 fish, and you can come and catch your fish and we can cook it for you. You can have that real experience. Our theme here is any kind of Latin foods, and we are experimenting with products that using the cocoa bean and the cocoa pulp. So we started in 2001, so we are about 12 years old.
Kimberly Calawan, News 4.
Well, that's how we wrap up this edition of our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barreto. Thank you for joining us.